On the evening of April 14, 1865, a nation on the cusp of healing from the ravages of civil war was plunged into despair by the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. Shot by Confederate sympathizer John Wilkes Booth at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., Lincoln's death the following morning marked a somber chapter in American history. This tragic event, occurring just days after General Robert E. Lee's surrender, catalyzed a massive manhunt and left an indelible mark on the nation's collective memory. The following account details the harrowing events of that night, the ensuing manhunt, and the legacy of both the man who perished and the theater that witnessed his final moments. The brutal murder of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, took place at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. on the night of April 14, 1865. Lincoln was fatally shot in the head by John Wilkes Booth, a supporter of the Confederacy, and succumbed to his injuries the following morning. This tragic event occurred just days after General Robert E. Lee's surrender at Appomattox Courthouse, effectively ending the American Civil War. Lincoln's assassination plunged the nation into mourning, and the ensuing manhunt for Booth and his conspirators became the largest in American history at that time. Subscribe now to be the first to get notification when we post new content. What are you waiting for? Together, let's grow and spread the word. Booth hailed from one of America's most distinguished acting families. His brother, Edwin Booth, was celebrated as the country's premier actor, a title inherited from their father, Junius Brutus Booth. John Wilkes Booth himself was a renowned performer, admired for his charm, athleticism, and striking appearance. Though raised in Maryland, a border state, Booth considered himself a Southerner and staunchly supported the institution of slavery. Despite promising his mother not to fight for the Confederacy, Booth remained in the North during the Civil War, where his animosity toward abolitionists and Lincoln intensified. In March 1865, Booth and a group of conspirators in Washington, D.C. plotted to kidnap Lincoln, though their plans never materialized. On the morning of April 14, 1865, Booth, distressed by the Confederacy's downfall, learned that Lincoln would be attending a performance of Our American Cousin at Ford's Theater that evening. Booth and his fellow conspirators devised a plan to assassinate not only Lincoln but also Vice President Andrew Johnson and Secretary of State William Seward. Booth assigned Lewis Powell, a formidable former Confederate soldier, to attack Seward, with David Herold assisting him. George Atzerodt, a German immigrant who had aided Confederate spies, was to kill Johnson. Booth himself would target Lincoln. The attacks were scheduled to occur simultaneously around 10 p.m. that night. However, Atzerodt failed to approach Johnson. Powell managed to infiltrate Seward's home and inflicted multiple knife wounds on him, leaving Seward permanently disfigured but alive. At Ford's Theater, Booth gained access to the unguarded private box, where Lincoln, his wife Mary Todd Lincoln, and their guests, Clara Harris and Union officer Major Henry Rathbone, were seated. Booth secured the box's outer door and, timing his entry to coincide with a comedic moment in the play, burst in. He shot Lincoln in the back of the head with a .44 caliber Derringer, slashed Rathbone's shoulder with a knife, and leapt onto the stage below, breaking his leg in the process, though some believe this injury occurred later. Booth's exact words during the attack are disputed, but he reportedly shouted "Sic semper tyrannis," thus always to tyrants the Virginia state motto, or the South is avenged, before fleeing through a stage side door where his horse awaited. Lincoln received immediate medical attention from several doctors in the audience and was moved to the nearby house of William Peterson, where he was laid diagonally across a bed due to his height. Despite the efforts of various doctors and officials, Lincoln remained unconscious and was pronounced dead at 7:22 a.m. on April 15th. Secretary of War Edwin M. Stanton is famously quoted as saying, "Now he belongs to the ages or to the angels, accounts vary." The following day, Easter Sunday, sermons across the country compared Lincoln's martyrdom to Jesus Christ's sacrificial death, initiating a period of national mourning. African Americans, in particular, felt Lincoln's loss deeply. Historians note that Lincoln, who had faced considerable opposition during his life, became much more revered posthumously. After public viewings in the White House and the Capitol, Lincoln's body was transported to Springfield, Illinois, on a 13-day train journey, with numerous stops for public mourning along the way. The manhunt for Booth and Herold, fueled by a $100,000 reward, was extensive. Booth received medical treatment for his leg from Dr. Samuel Mudd, who was later convicted of conspiracy. Booth and Herold hid in a wooded area near the Zekiah Swamp in Maryland for several days before being tracked down by federal troops on April 26th at a Virginia farm. Herold surrendered, but Booth refused and was shot, either by a soldier or himself, and died shortly after. Rumors of Booth's survival persisted but lacked credible evidence. 8 conspirators were tried for Lincoln's assassination. Herold, Powell, Atzerodt, and Mary Surratt were found guilty and hanged. Michael O. Orland and Samuel Arnold were sentenced to life imprisonment, while Edmund Spangler received a 6-year sentence. Another conspirator, John Surratt Jr., fled but was later captured and tried in 1867, though his case was dismissed. Ford's Theatre in Washington, D.C., the site of Lincoln's assassination, was originally built in 1833 as the First Baptist Church. After the congregation relocated in 1859, John T. Ford purchased and converted it into a theatre, which opened in 1862. Following a fire, it was rebuilt and reopened in 1863, quickly becoming a popular venue. On April 14, 1865, Lincoln attended a performance at Ford's Theatre, where he was shot by Booth. The theatre closed immediately amid public outrage, and the federal government seized it, converting it into an office building. In 1893, a collapse killed 22 clerks, after which it was primarily used as a storehouse. In 1932, the Lincoln Museum opened on the theatre's first floor, and in 1964, a restoration project returned the theatre to its 1865 appearance. Ford's Theatre reopened as a working theatre in 1968. A major renovation occurred between 2007 and 2009, and today, Ford's Theatre remains open to tours, with the Lincoln Museum located in the basement.